Debbie Wasserman Schultz, a Democratic member of the House Oversight and Appropriations Committees. Welcome back to the show. It's good to see you. So let's get with the negotiations for the Build Back Better reconciliation bill. Let's take a listen to what President Biden, we just had President Obama being talked about. President Biden talked about how to pay for this bill, and here it is.
Here's what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to make sure that we pay for everything without anyone making less than $400,000 paying a single cent more in taxes. That's my objective.
But no actual rate hikes?
No, I don't think we're going to be able to get the vote.
How tough do you think it's going to be to pay for this bill? I mean, can a vote really be anywhere near without nailing down how to pay for it first?
Well, here's what I know, that when all is said and done, Alex, when we send a bill to President Biden, we're going to have passed transformative change for millions of middle-class families that will include tax breaks for them, that will include tax hikes on the people who are the wealthiest, most fortunate Americans, so we can pay for making sure that people have affordable, quality child care. Reductions in their health care costs, making sure that we can have universal pre-K, making sure that we can have expansion of Medicaid. And what I also know is that, having been a legislator for a long time, having been through the Affordable Care Act debate, having been on your show and remember discussing the Affordable Care Act drama and the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act debates, at the end of the day, we're going to have two packages, an infrastructure package and a Build Back Better Act, that we're going to be able to take on the road and talk about how we transform the lives of millions of Americans without help from a single Republican. And that's right now, the fault lies and the choice for people in the future lies in Republicans who want to still take care of the wealthy and Democrats who are fighting to help improve people's lives, who are struggling to make ends meet and who want to stay or reach the middle class.
Yeah, and listen, you reference your long tenure in politics and the many times we've spoken over the years. You were the chair of the Democratic National Committee. So from that perspective, how much of an impact do you think the outcome of these bills will ultimately have for Democrats across the 2022 midterm elections? I mean, will it influence voters either way? How do you get that message out?
Sure, absolutely. It'll influence voters. When we pass the infrastructure legislation, which, for example, in Florida, we have 400 bridges and 3,500 miles of highways that are in poor condition. And when we get the infusion of the billions of dollars that will come our way to make sure we can repair those and move people around in our tourism-driven economy, that's going to be huge in terms of job creation, making sure that we can get those tourists coming back and spending more money here. And when we can take it on the road, that we pass that bill, that we passed a bill that expands the child tax credit, cutting poverty in half further for all children across this country that are living in poverty now, we're going to make a huge difference for our candidates that are running in congressional districts, for legislative candidates for mayor, governor, and as a result, I think it's going to make a big difference when we can contrast our priorities with the Republicans, who essentially are trying to stop people from being able to vote, and also who really want to support Donald Trump and continue their ability to try to overthrow and overturn the outcome of fairly run elections.
Yeah.
I like that. Going into 22.
We're going to talk about a hot button issue here where there's some contrast in your state. You have the Supreme Court that will be taking up a case against Texas's near total abortion ban in November. However, they are leaving that law in effect in the meantime. But aside from the national implications, how critical is this case for Florida? Because as you well know, Republican lawmakers there are looking to file an abortion bill that's somewhat similar to Texas.
Yeah, the Republicans immediately here in Florida immediately filed copycat legislation that would impose similar, really vile restrictions on a woman's right to make her own reproductive choices. The Supreme Court, I'm thankful that they're going to take something up quickly. They're not going to rule on the constitutionality of the law. What they are going to do is two things. Take a look at whether a state like Texas or any state can restrict the ability of a challenge in court by bypassing state enforcement, and then also whether or not the law should take effect while it's working its way through the courts. Certainly, it should be halted, and I hope they decide the right way on the games that Texas played to try to stop enforcement. But the bottom line is that that's another contrast going into 22. And if you go back to 1996, when Bill Clinton was running for re-election, and it was a similar situation, and in the midterms after that, where usually the party in power loses seats, but you had suburban Republican women who were fed up with the right-wing extremism and the restrictions, if you remember, on the late-term abortion ban that was attempted by the Republicans, and we won seats. And so we're going to have an opportunity to draw that contrast between the extremism of the Republican Party on voting rights, on trying to overturn democratically held elections, and dramatically trying to restrict women's reproductive rights. I think we're going to have a lot of folks, come over to our side that might not normally.
Yeah. I want to get to something that hits very close to home there as well, because this week brought a pretty new development in the 2018 mass shooting at the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. The gunman, Nicholas Cruz, entered a guilty plea on 17 counts of first-degree murder, 17 counts of attempted first-degree murder. He apologized to the victims as well. But do you have a sense of how the families are viewing that apology and what they want to see happen to Nicholas Cruz?
What the families who were devastated in our community was devastated by the Marjory Stoneman Douglas tragedy are feeling right now is that they want to make sure that the focus stays on their children and the 3 adults that were murdered in cold blood by this vicious killer. And he had no regard for their life. And so focusing on making sure that we can honor their memory is important to them. And the way we can do that is by taking legal steps like passing legislation that we've passed already out of the House to increase and close all the loopholes in terms of background checks by passing H.R. 8, by passing Jamie's Law, which I've introduced, to make sure that we can enforce the law that already exists, because you can't buy ammunition for the same reasons if you are prohibited from buying a gun. And we need to make sure we do background checks on ammunition purchases as well. We have to make sure that something like this never happens again and that's the best way to honor those victims.
Amen to all of that. Florida Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, thank you so much. Good